You're in front of the former U.S. Pavilion, designed by Buckminster Fuller with the architects Soshi Sadao and George Eber. Today, the Pavilion is Environment Canada's biosphere. This gigantic dome constitutes one of the most original systems of the 20th century. It is a geodesic dome. Geodesic, meaning the shortest path. The system was patented in 1949. Today, there exist thousands of domes in the world, but few are as remarkable as this. At the time, the light metal structure of the U.S. Pavilion was covered by a transparent and curved acrylic cover. The acrylic shell changed color depending on the intensity of the sunlight, and a movable set of sunshades made of aluminum which were powered by motors set to the trajectory of the sun. At night, the dome became a sparkling jewel. The internal structure was designed by the Cambridge 7 Associates, a group of professors of architecture at Harvard University. It had 4 major platforms held up by columns and connected by bridges, elevators, and the longest escalator at the time, 40 meters long. There was a staircase leading visitors to a platform called the Lunar Objective. These facilities created an impression of space and movement. One could even say of weightlessness. The sensation of movement was enhanced by the passage of the monorail through the dome. But in 1976, an accidental fire destroyed the acrylic cover in a few seconds. And in 1990, the federal government created an exhibition here devoted to the water and the ecosystem of the St. Lawrence River. The Montreal architect Éric Gauthier took charge of the renovation. Fortunately, the exceptional interior space of the pavilion is preserved. Move slowly towards the entrance to the dome. Once you arrive at the entrance of the biosphere, stop. It is here that one best senses the immensity of the pavilion, its transparency and lightness. Initially, the structure was supposed to be dismantled. The structure was designed by Fuller, following the principle of more with less. That is to say, of providing maximum volume and durability with a minimum of materials. This is exactly what this self-standing system achieves. Imagine yourself in 1967. Buckminster talks about his vision.
In this Expo dome, we have a three-quarter sphere, so the walls start going away from you, and there's a very extraordinary psychological effect of this releasing you. Inside, suddenly realize that the walls really are not there. There's something that's keeping the rain away from you. It's like an umbrella above you. You don't feel shut in. I must be able to convert the resources of the earth into higher and higher capability of service. I must do more and more with less and less until I reached a point where we could do so much as to be able to service all men in respect to all of their needs.
Fuller, is one of the fathers of sustainable development. Let's walk back now to the circular plaza.
The notion that it is the lightest possible deployment of materials to enclose any particular space. So it's a very efficient deployment of materials or resources, and the method of construction makes it very possible to be more sustainable in the sense that it's easy to replicate and you can do it out of many different ways, out of many different materials. As long as you're using the skin action, you can build a dome. This, I think, is the intrinsic value of this particular geometry. Even though he was not trained as an architect, he never had an architecture degree, it was rather interesting that in the 50s, he really made a name for himself for teaching design studios all across the United States, mainly up and down the East Coast. But he would be teaching at Yale, at Princeton, at Harvard, at Columbia. So Norman Foster is one of the most famous students of Mr. Wheeler. His particular message is that everybody, in a sense, can be involved in the notion of design for the betterment of humanity. The discipline of architecture is much wider than just designing for one person or one community or one building. Instead, it's about how you're translating your particular vision for a way of life, how people will live, how people interact with each other. This, I think, is the legacy that architecture has expanded, literally.
In Fuller's last manuscript, one can read,
I am now close to 88, and I am confident that the only thing important about me is that I am an average, healthy human. I am also a living case history of a thoroughly documented half-century search and research project designed to discover what, if anything, an unknown, moneyless individual with a dependent wife and newborn child might be able to do effectively on behalf of all humanity. That could not be accomplished by great nations, great religions, or private enterprise, no matter how rich or powerfully armed.